Hey guys, welcome back to another video on my channel. Before we get started on today's video, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Put all your comments, suggestions in the comment section below. Please like my video and watch all my other content once you're done with this video. And we are 11 days from election day. We are just almost there, under 2 weeks. It is October 24th, 2024. So we are extremely close to election day, which is pretty exciting to say the least. And over the past week, we've seen some interesting trends going on in a lot of our polling, betting odds, and early voting. And the most favorable trend that we have seen for Trump has been undergoing right now. And you can already see from the national vote, Trump is surging in the national popular vote, and to the point where he almost is about to pass Kamala Harris. And this actually beats my prediction. My prediction was that Kamala Harris would probably end around 1%. Now we're still 11 days, just keep that in mind. But going off of this trend, I kind of see it hard now for Kamala Harris to rebound and get a popular vote win in the polls by 1 point. And now I kind of see a scenario where Donald Trump does win the popular vote if the polls are right. And looking back at 2020, Biden was up 8.1% at this time in history, which is just insane that right now the popular vote's basically tied. And Clinton was up 5.5%. We see here the past 4 polls have all had Trump up, and these aren't all like Republican pollsters. Rasmussen reports, people always call them a Republican pollster, but they were actually accurate in the 2020 election. They said that Biden was going to win the popular vote, and they were accurate on that. We have Forbes Harris X, which is definitely not a popular which is not a favorable poll for Trump. We have CNBC and Wall Street Journal. All of them have Trump up by 2 or 3 points. We have also Atlas, Intel, and Fox News having Trump up. We do have a couple pollsters that are still favorable for Kamala Harris. Morning Consult has been absolutely terrible this cycle, even when Biden was still running against Trump. In this cycle, they still had Biden win the popular vote. Meanwhile, the average had Trump winning by like 2 or 3 points at some point. They still had Biden up. And looking at this graph now that we've scrolled down, we can see when Kamala Harris took the lead in about the beginning of August, she has maintained between a 1 to 2 point lead. And then over here at around the early to mid points of October is when I started pointing out that she is faltering a lot in these polls and that a pretty bad trend is going to start ensuing for her. She had maintained steady at around 49% while Donald Trump has been consistently gaining, but now she has dropped under 49% and they're both basically tied. 48.7 to 48.5. We're still waiting for a couple polls that are going to come out. I'm sure CBS News and Harvard Harris are going to update their polls soon, as well as Emerson and USA Today. But this is a extremely clear trend. You see here that she was up by 2 points in the beginning of October, and now we are around almost more than halfway through October actually. And she is up by only 0.2%. Will she lose this lead completely? Will Trump actually be up in the popular vote when election day comes? I don't really know, but I do know that he is favored right now. Maybe I would give him a 40% chance at this rate to win the popular vote, just because of how bad these things are getting for Kamala Harris in terms of polls. Not in terms of polls only, but in terms of betting odds. Trump has a 63% chance to win the election, and Harris has a 37% according to Polymarket, the largest betting site on the internet, and one that is known for definitely being more accurate than the polls. As with previous election cycles, this has been proven accurate. We have millions of people betting. We can check here. We have $2.4 billion that have been bet. Donald Trump has exploded as the polls have also gotten better for him. People have also thought he's going to win, and he is maintaining steady at around 60 to 63% chance. It actually just went up again. So it's always changing. There's so much money being put into it. We have the swing states where Donald Trump has a 71% chance to win Arizona. He has a 62% chance to win Nevada. He has a 56% chance to win Wisconsin. Similar with Michigan. 57 in Pennsylvania, 67 North Carolina, and 71% chance in Georgia. So this is a fairly easy sweep for him if this is carried out into reality, we have now the popular vote winner, which also has seen a lot of bets. And throughout most of the cycle, Kamala Harris was sitting in around the 60s to 70s, and that also has collapsed to a point where she only has a 60% chance to win the election. I expect this to go even more down as the election gets near, because people now do believe that Donald Trump does have a chance to win the popular vote. Republicans are favored, 84% chance in the Senate, and also Republicans have flipped their chances in the House, which gives them a 1 in 2 chance of sweeping the board and winning all of the chambers and having a supermajority in every single chamber of government. Over here, going back to the Senate, Democrats only have a 16% chance to maintain Senate control. So those are the national polls and state polls, including the betting odds. Looking at the polls now on Real Clear Politics for all of the battleground states, Trump leads by 1% on average, and he has maintained that lead after expanding it in the middle of October. He leads in Arizona by 1.5%. He leads in Nevada by 0.7%. He leads in Wisconsin by 0.2%. He leads in Michigan by 0.2%. He leads in Pennsylvania by 0.6%. He leads in North Carolina by 0.8%. And he leads by Georgia, the largest one of all, by 2.2%. Keep in mind, Georgia is a state that has the most accurate polling. If there's one state that we can rely on the most for polling, it would be Georgia, because let's go back in history. Back in the 2016 election, they were off by 0.3%, and right now they're also off by a narrow amount. In the 2020 election, off by around 1.3%. So once again, if these averages were correct, Donald Trump would win the state of Georgia between 1.5 and 2.5%, which actually is exactly what I believe Georgia is going to vote by. So let's also take a look at one more metric before we get to the final map, which would be the early voting. And let's take a look at Pennsylvania first to see the early voting. And this is a state that Democrats usually need to build a really, really heavy lead in the early voting to be able to stand a chance for Republicans when they turn out on election day. Right now, they have around 56.9% of requests. Republicans are up to almost 31%. Keep in mind, in the 2020 election, Democrats were in the high to mid to high 60s. So they have dropped considerably since last time around. In the 2020 election, Democrats had around 2 million early votes, and Republicans had around 700,000. Democrats had around a 1.2 to 1.3 million advantage. Now their advantage is only around 500,000 votes, which is nothing compared to what they need to be able to make up ground for when Republicans end up voting in person. See, Republicans are already almost back up to their margin in the 2020 election when they got around 700,000. Democrats are still around 900,000 away from what they need to be. Going now to Florida, we see similar things, but except it's much, much worse in Florida. Democrats are now down by 9 points. Republicans, ever since early in person has started, they have been outnumbering them 2-1. They're almost even tied in the mail votes. And at this point, after 3.1 million votes have already been cast, Republicans have a 9-point lead. This is not even including on election day vote, which will skew heavily towards Republicans. I want to point out a few things here. Duval County, Joe Biden won that county narrowly. Republicans are up by 2 points right now. We have the Hillsborough County, which also Democrats won by not too much, but a pretty considerable margin to say the least. Republicans have flipped this county and lead by almost a point. We have Pinellas County, which is very, very tight in the 2020 election. Right now, Trump leads by 2 points. We have Miami-Dade County, which voted for Biden by around 8 points. And now Republicans have just I think 1 hour ago have actually flipped it to red. Also, some notable counties. We have Palm Beach County, which has shrunk to only a 10-point lead for Democrats in the early voting. Some strong counties for Democrats, such as Orange County, are now 15 points. We have Broward County that now is dropping. Democrats are almost dropping below 50%. So they have collapsed in basically every single county. To give you a little bit of a view of the map, this is what it looks like. Keep in mind, in 2020, Biden won Miami-Dade County, he won Port St. Lucie, he won Hillsborough, he won Tampa, and he won Jacksonville, Duval County. So this is a major swing, and at this point on my election analysis, I'm probably gonna say that Florida is gonna be safe for Donald Trump. I think he's gonna win the state by over 12 points at this point, looking at the early voting. In the state of North Carolina, 2 million votes have been cast already, and Republicans have just passed Democrats in the early voting. They just passed them. They now lead by around 3,000 votes. I expect that trend to continue because the early voting is going to continue favoring them. They have gotten extremely good turnout from this center western part of the state, and we're going to continue to see trends in Republicans' favors in the northeastern and southeastern part, as we saw in the 2020 election. All the other states that you do see here do not report by party, so it will only show turnout, which is not really too helpful for us because we don't know what party they are. We could infer a couple things, that there is high turnout in a lot of these states, but once again, it's hard to really gauge them because they do not register by party. And so with all the information that I've told you in the past 10 minutes or 11 minutes, let's put all that into a map now. And this is a general map. This is not an exact prediction. And my final prediction isn't going to come until November 4th, I believe. So please stay tuned for that video to come out very shortly, in about 10 days from now. But, Democrats are still going to be able to win all of the West Coast by safe margins. And these are 12 points or above. I am not putting New Jersey in that safe column anymore. I flipped it last time from safe to likely because of how early voting is going in other states in the Northeast. The shifts towards Republicans are very massive. So it is enough for me to put it in that likely column. I am now including Florida in my safe state column, which goes probably similar to Ohio and Iowa, maybe even up to 15 points, but I don't know just yet. We're gonna have to wait for more early data to really know that. Trump will still win Texas in that likely column. They do not register by party, so I can't really show you how the early voting is looking, but I can tell you from the modeled party, which is just a prediction of how party affiliation is, it is looking better for Republicans in that state. The main second district is going to go likely for Republicans. We have Colorado being likely for Democrats. New Jersey still likely for Democrats. And this is going to be the battleground map. The rest of these states are going to be around 6 points or less. I'm going to quickly fill out New Mexico, and I'm going to put that actually under 6 points now. It is going to be dropping from 6 points to 5 points. The state of Minnesota is dropping to around 3 to 4 points for the Democrats. Virginia is going to be around 3 to 4 points, and do expect Maine at large, New Hampshire, and Nebraska second also to fall between 3 and 5 points for the vice president. Do expect Maine at large to possibly be to the right of New Hampshire, because New Hampshire as a whole, the polls are looking very good for Democrats, and a lot of people from Massachusetts and Rhode Island and Connecticut have been moving and voting Democrat, since these are extremely Democrat areas, especially Massachusetts. And so we're left now with our battleground states. In the lean column for Donald Trump, I'm not even finished with the lean column because we did Democrats lean column and the Republican lean column, 2 to 6 points. North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona are the states that are going to be going in the lean column. So that propels Trump all the way up to 262. And taking polls from Arizona and Georgia, we can see that Trump is up by 2.2 and 1.5%, so extremely large margins in those two states. In North Carolina, it's a lot closer, where he does lead by 0.8, but still it is a good enough lead for him. And in the we see here in the early voting, once again, Republicans do lead. Let's remember back in 2020, Democrats led the early voting. This is only early voting. This does not include any of the election day voting, obviously, since we are not on election day. So automatically, this should always be skewing Democrat in all of these states. So if you see Democrats at a slight lead at some points in any of these states, that is expected. And since they are not even leading right now in North Carolina, that that makes it a lot easier for me to say that Trump will win North Carolina in that lean column. Arizona, we've been getting a lot of early data. It has not been added to VoteHub, but it is on Twitter. It is posted everywhere, where Republicans have around a 3 to 4 point lead right now in early voting. And Republicans also do have a pretty substantial early voting lead in the state of Nevada. And I'm putting Nevada right now in the tilt column for Republicans, which elevates them all the way to 268. And we have left Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. These states all have extremely tight polling. In Wisconsin and Michigan, Trump leads by 0.2. And in the state of Pennsylvania, he leads by 0.6. And according to all the metrics and all the data that we have, all of these three states right now will be going to Donald Trump between 0 and 2%. Very narrow margins. Out of all the three, I do think Michigan will be the closest one, the one that Kamala Harris has the highest chance of flipping. I do believe that right now this state is around 52 to 48 chance of going for Trump, which is a little bit closer than the markets even show it. I do think that her chances are a little bit higher than 44%. And that's why this is going to be going on the tilt column, but very, very close nonetheless. And that's going to be all for my map and for my video today, analyzing numbers and polls and early data. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, put all your comments in the section below, and I will definitely check you guys out in the next one.